It's D-U-E-U till I see you by this point. You're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Man, we about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Yeah.
Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and it's Thanksgiving Day. We want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving, and we know you've already enjoyed two great NFL matchups already, and we'll start this show off by taking a look at tonight's matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. Offensively for the Ravens, there is a lack of creativity and direction. Now, Baltimore has a wealth of speed and explosiveness at wide receiver, and now is the time for them to utilize that by going spreading the field, and allowing those catch and run guys to do what they do best, and that's catch and run with the football. Their run game will still be their run game, but it's the passing game as a whole that has to get more creative. We've seen that with Pittsburgh over the years, being able to transform itself offensively to complement the amount of talent that they've been able to accumulate during Mike Tomlin's tenure. Right now, they're operating at a very high level on that side of the ball with room to grow in a run game, which could find some success against the Ravens. Defensively for Baltimore, they were beat up last week by a physical Titans team, and it was two plays in particular. Both ended up being touchdowns that told the entire story. Baltimore has to find a way, despite missing some key guys up front, to regain that swagger, that mystique on that side of the ball, as right now teams come into a game against Baltimore not fearing them defensively. They have to be able to pressure Ben Roethlisberger and generate turnovers. For the Steelers defense, they have done a great job against Lamar Jackson during his short career. They do a fantastic job of pressuring him and also forcing negative plays. The second time around, they have to be much better at protecting the middle of the field, as that's where the majority of the Ravens passing game tends to happen. On a short week facing a banged up Ravens group, I do like the Steelers in this ball game. I bet we'll see a scrappy Ravens bunch whose back is up against the wall come out swinging and play valiantly all throughout the game. But right now, the Steelers are just playing excellent football in all three facets. That's offense, defense, and special teams. Now let's take a look at our NFL power rankings heading into week 12, and we'll start with number 32. The New York Jets will remain here at number 32 for the duration of the season unless things drastically change on the offensive side of the ball. This team right now is just playing out the string and focused on getting better in 2021. So are the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are playing tough but aren't able to play consistently tough for 4 quarters. It's another situation where a team who has individual talent just can't find a way to get over the hump. They are in danger of losing their 10th straight game this upcoming week. Taking a look at teams 26 through 30, and the Bengals were in the lead against the Washington football team before Joe Burrow went down with a season-ending injury, and they figured to struggle the rest of the way with Ryan Finley at quarterback. The Chargers could easily be 6-4 in the season if they could finish ball games. Glad they were able to get a win last week against the Jets, and both the Falcons and Washington figured to be the fly in the ointment type teams the rest of the way, with Washington still being in the thick of the NFC East race. So are the Dallas Cowboys, who got off the mat last week against the Minnesota Vikings, winning the game in an impressive fashion. That was a solid Viking squad who won 3 straight games and had a lot of momentum coming into that matchup, and the Cowboys put forth their best effort of the season with Andy Dalton back at the starter. Coming off his best performance of the year, the Cowboys had their eyes set on the NFC East lead and hope to bottle up that momentum the rest of the way, as the schedule sets up pretty nicely for them down the back stretch of the season. Looking at teams 21 through 25, and the Philadelphia Eagles have struggled mightily as of late, just looking flat out ineffective on offense. It's been the opposite for the New York Giants, who have looked like the best team overall in the division and are looking to keep that positive momentum going as they're coming off their bye week. The Lions got shut out last week by the Panthers, and we'll see if the bye week did the 49ers some good, as they were pretty banged up heading into week 11. Now, the Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson has played some stellar football this season, and despite his efforts, the Texans haven't been able to consistently come away with the wins this year, but they hope they can at least fight their way into a potential wildcard berth this season. While their chances are very slim, it's hard to count out a Deshaun Watson-led football team. Teams 16 through 20 include some squads coming off impressive wins last week, like the Denver Broncos, who got the job done against a red-hot Miami Dolphins squad, and Drew Lock overcame a rough start to lead them to victory down the stretch. The Panthers got great play from their reserve quarterback P.J. Walker, who was able to win his first NFL start against the Detroit Lions. Now, both New England and Minnesota had their winning streaks halted last week, throwing some cold water on the hot run they've been on recently. With the Packers' loss to the Colts last week, it cracked the door open for a team like Chicago to make a run for the division. That can only happen if the Bears can find some offense moving forward. It'll be tough as they're really banged up at quarterback, but if they're able to catch lightning in the bottle, they have a chance to catch Green Bay because of their defense. We spoke earlier about Baltimore being on a slide. As we take a look at teams 11 through 15, they are in desperate need of a win as they currently sit on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. The Miami Dolphins pulled Tua Tagovailoa during the stretch run of the Broncos game last week during an ineffective play, and we'll hope that he's able to redeem himself this upcoming weekend. Arizona and Las Vegas are coming off competitive losses, but still look like teams that will find their way into the playoffs. So do the Cleveland Browns, who physically dominated the Philadelphia Eagles and did so without their best player in defensive end Myles Garrett. They have the right formula working right now, and it shows how good of a job head coach Kevin Stefanski has done so far in his first season, turning this team around in a pretty impressive fashion. He's one who should be mentioned for Coach of the Year if they're able to make the playoffs. As we move into the top 10, the Tennessee Titans are the biggest bullies on the block in the NFL. I just love the way they are able to play physical for 60 minutes. Tampa Bay can look dominant one week and ineffective the next. It's that helter-skelter type approach that worries you about them long term. The same can be said about the Green Bay Packers, who have to get much better or much more consistent on defense. We've seen the Seahawks get better up front defensively with the addition of defensive end Carlos Dunlap, and we'll see if that continues moving forward. I like what I'm seeing offensively from the Indianapolis Colts. They have some serious speed and explosiveness on offense, and it's looking like they're finally starting to hit click and hit their stride. They have a huge rematch this week against the Titans team they spanked pretty soundly a couple of weeks ago. That should be one of the best games of the weekend. And now for the top 5, the New Orleans Saints got really good play from quarterback Taysom Hill last week, proving that he could do just enough to keep that offense on pace at the position. The Bills were coming off their bye week and will be looking for a strong push toward the playoffs. Kansas City was able to avenge their earlier season loss against the Raiders in a big-time win on Monday night, keeping them lockstep with the Pittsburgh Steelers as the two best teams in football. But don't sleep on the Los Angeles Rams, who are quietly rounding into shape. Their defense has improved every week, and offensively, we know they can be a well-oiled machine. And if this keeps up, this could be very interesting in both the NFC West and the NFC picture as a whole. We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show.
I love football. I cannot get enough of football. I watch it on every level.
The emotional release. You know, whether it's an exciting play that gets you all jacked up and juiced, or whether it's the fact that you're able to pour everything you have. Whatever frustration you had that week, you can put into that first kickoff coverage, that first block that you have, whatever it might be.
And I couldn't think of anything better to do to fill that void that you have as a football player than to get into coaching.
You get a chance to release a lot of emotion that you otherwise have no place to release. There's nothing else like that.
Again, the relationships you build and the people you're around, and watching the guys compete, not just on the football field, but in life after they get done playing. It's just an amazing game.
It's prop bet time as we head into week 12. Let's take a look at some of my favorite NFL prop bets heading into the weekend. Let's give you some props for Thanksgiving night between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Again, let that Lamar Jackson hate make you some money at plus 200. Take the over 1.5 touchdown passing mark for Jackson. The disrespect that comes Lamar's way is insane, and there is some validity to what he said last week about people rooting for them to lose. He'll have at least 2 touchdown passes in this ball game. He will also have over 16.5 completions in this game. Again, let that hate make you some money. The reigning MVP is not hard up for completions. Dude can ball and will have to win it with his arm this week as they are shorthanded in the backfield. Defensively for the Ravens, they will have to stop the run in order to win. I think we'll see a much better effort in that regard this week. So take James Conner to go under 64.5 yards rushing at minus 115. at plus 100. I think wide receiver Deontay Johnson will have under 5.5 receptions this week. I believe we'll see the Juju Smith-Schuster breakout game as opposed to Johnson getting peppered with targets this week against Baltimore. However, at minus 125, I do like Chase Claypool's longest reception to be over 19.5 yards. This was a chunk play waiting to happen and has at least 2 every game. So this seems like an easy number for him to hit in this matchup. Over in the Dolphins-Jets game at plus 111, I believe we'll see 2 to 3 turnovers. You have a skittish quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa going up against a Greg Williams defense. That should be good for at least 1 turnover. And you have an ineffective Jets offense that should be good for at least 1 to 2 giveaways themselves. Now in the Chargers-Bills game, I do like how the Chargers are able to start fast, which is why I like them to get on the board first against Buffalo. And the first score will be a Charger touchdown, so take that prop right there. At plus 400, I like the Titans to show some good adjustments made and get on the board with the Stephen Gostkowski field goal attempt. And finally, just to tip my prediction here with the Giants-Bengals game, I like the Giants to get a decisive win against Cincinnati. And by the way, they will win between 13 and 18 points, and you can find that prop at plus 560. And welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, now joined by Chris James, our football analyst here at Football Game Plan, giving you some fantasy football advice, his starting lineup and his sitting lineup. And Chris, let's start with your starting lineup. And looking at your list, you have some really great names here for guys you want to start this week. Let's start with Deshaun Watson and what he brings to the table and why he's such a must start this week versus Denver or Detroit.
Absolutely. So outside of the bad matchups to start the year, Deshaun Watson has been doing the job going down the stretch. And no matter what, I mean, he had a run where he just ran over linebackers going to the end zone last week. This week he gets a Detroit defense that didn't fare well against backup at PJ Walker and the Carolina Panthers. So I think this week he really takes, again, that next step, probably puts up 3 to 4 touchdowns, because this will be a breakout type game for this Texans offense to just prove how good they really are.
And you also have a defense on here that I really like. That's intriguing. That's been playing really good football all season. And that's the Giants defense. And you have them as a must start this week. Why?
You know, outside of just the matchup, to your point, that defense has improved over this year, and it's getting much better week in and week out. But also the matchup. You have Ryan Finley, who, again, last time we saw Ryan Finley in extended action last season, could not get right, turn the ball over. So I think they're going to compress, put pressure on that run game, and it's either going to be no yards gained or there's going to be turnovers that will be produced. So I think the Giants can have a big output this week against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, they might even get in the end zone defensively against ineffective Ryan Finley. Now, Moving over to the sitting lineup and staying in the NFC East division, one that's still competitive, albeit everyone has 3 wins, but Miles Sanders for the Eagles you have as a must sit this week. Why so?
So that Seattle defense, to the point I made earlier, it's improved. They're going to use the focal point as far as Miles Sanders being taken away. They're going to put it on Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz this year just does not look right. He's been a turnover machine. That's where they're going to thrive and strive. And I think this is the type of game where Miles Sanders gets removed, a little more Boston Scott, because they'll probably be playing from behind as well.
Now, as we look at some of your sleepers for this week, and these are guys that you're saying, hey, keep an eye out. If you have the ability to grab them, get them. If you have them on your roster, start them, because these are guys that are going to be, these superstars by the time this week is all said and done. So you look at Kerryon Johnson with the Lions. This is one of your sleepers. Why so?
So the news is DeAndre Swift should be out this week. If you're playing in, even some 12-team leagues, but 14 and 16-team leagues, Kerryon Johnson could be a sneaky play this week, because I expect the game script to be a Kerryon Johnson game script. I expect the Texans to be up. They utilize him more because he's a good pass protector, but also he can leak out of the backfield. And it's not like he forgot how to run the ball. He's just not as talented as a DeAndre Swift, but he is a better option in the passing game than an Adrian Peterson. So he can possibly get into the end zone this week based on the fact that they'll probably be playing from behind.
Now, before I get you out of here, I have to ask you your prediction on Thanksgiving night, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Who you got and why?
Before this last game, I would have picked Pittsburgh. I think it would have been a good way for Baltimore to kind of fall down a chasm. After what happened last week, I feel like Baltimore may feel like they got, I don't know what verbiage I can use on here, but they didn't feel good about themselves after the game was over. So against a Pittsburgh team that's starting to probably press a bit, because when you get to 10-0, you start to see that 16-0 show up. They always play well against this Pittsburgh team, and I think they go back to effective, pounding the ball with Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson getting out on the edge and doing some things. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens because I think that this is a prime example of when you don't expect it, you should expect it, and Baltimore gets back right in a game against an undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers team.
That's Chris James. I'm Emory Hunt. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Football Game Plans, NFL All 32.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. You know, people have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with the huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, you know, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Now let's preview the games this weekend, and we'll start in the 1 o'clock window as the New York Giants travel to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Giants come off of a bye week facing a Bengals squad that just lost their franchise quarterback for the season. New York's defense has been the most surprising and most consistent part of their 2020 campaign, and I don't see a Ryan Finley-led offense having any success this week. I'm taking New York. The Raiders and Falcons meet up in Atlanta, both coming off of losses. The Raiders, though, look like a team that has made significant strides on the defensive side of the ball. While there's still work to be done, they have gotten better. The Falcons offense has playmakers, but doesn't have that consistency needed to beat the good teams like the Raiders. I'm rolling the dice with Vegas in this one. The Buffalo Bills play host to the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that'll feature two solid young quarterbacks. The question will be whether or not the Los Angeles Chargers can play a consistent four-quarter game. I think we'll see them play close to that, but I like the Bills here coming off of a bye week with a chance to put further distance between them and the rest of the teams in the AFC East division. Tennessee and Indy meet up in a rematch from a few weeks ago, and the Titans are playing like a different team since then, but so are the Indianapolis Colts, and their defense seems to have a key on the run game and will force Tannehill to beat them consistently throwing the football. The rematch game is always about adjustments, but I do like the Colts to get the season sweep here against Tennessee. Can the Panthers make it 2 in a row as they travel to Minnesota? We'll see. Probably quarterback Teddy Bridgewater back for this game, or we'll see if PJ Walker can stack solid performances. The bigger question will be if their defense can have an encore performance against the run like they did against Detroit. I struggle to see that happening. I'm going to take Minnesota to bounce back and get the win. Arizona heads to Foxborough to take on the Patriots, and the Cardinals just ran out of time against the Seattle Seahawks last week in a really good game. They are playing a much more consistent brand of football than New England, so look for the Patriots defense to have issues versus this spread attack of Arizona. I like the Cardinals. Miami travels to New York to tangle with the Jets. Tua Tagovailoa should be able to bounce back against Gang Green, and if he does, it will be the best effort yet, as we know defensive coordinator Greg Williams will send the house at him all game long. I like the Dolphins to win big. Cleveland and Jacksonville meet up in a game where the Browns better not take the Jags lightly. I like how Jacksonville is able to put up fights in games, but I don't trust their offensive attack enough to finish the fight. Look for the Browns to notch their first non-losing season since 2007. Taysom Hill and the Saints take their show on the road this week against the Denver Broncos, and this game will be about which defense can frustrate the opposing quarterback. I would lean toward New Orleans in that regard, as the Saints defense has played stellar over the better part of 2 months. They'll get the win in the Mile High City, continuing to strengthen their hold on the #1 seed in the NFC playoff picture. San Francisco hopes to put a halt to the streak the Rams are on currently. It'll take a great offensive effort to do so, as right now it's hard to trust San Fran on that side of the ball. I'm taking the Rams here. They're playing as good a football as anyone in the league right now, and I expect them to avoid the letdown against the Niners. Kansas City heads to Tampa for what hopes to be the first of 2 stops there this season. The Chiefs secondary will be put to the test against a potent passing game from Tampa Bay, but the Bucs offensive line will be the question. Can they hold up in pass pro? I don't think so. So look for a tight game here, but I do trust Kansas City a bit more than Tampa Bay. Chicago and Green Bay meet up in a pivotal NFC North battle. The Bears are not out of the division race just yet and would be in a must-win game for them in order for that to become closer to reality. However, I can't trust the Bears offense as far as I can throw them. I'm taking Green Bay. They won't have a repeat of what happened against Minnesota in this one. And finally, the Seahawks travel to Philly for a Monday night battle against the Eagles. I love what the Seahawks defense did last week versus Arizona. We saw them get after the quarterback throughout the ball game, and they face a struggling Carson Wentz and the Eagles offense. So look for Seattle to have an encore performance on defense. In this one, I like the Hawks. So that's it for this week's edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Shout out to Chris James for joining the show as well. Follow me on Twitter at FBallGamePlan, Instagram at Football Game Plan, and on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And shout out to Game Plus Network for always showing support for Football Game Plan and our NFL All 32 show.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.